Hey guys, it's Taya. We're back with another succulent video, and today I'm going to be showing you how to repot your succulents. So I finally went out and I got more soil. Again, this is the soil I use, Kellogg brand, for palm, cactus, and citrus. To kind of go over quickly, the soil that I like to use is more loose and not as rich as you would have a soil for like other flowering beds and stuff like that. And definitely a must for me is to have pumice. Perlite is okay, but I definitely prefer pumice. Over here you can see a couple of the plants right here that I'm going to be replanting. A Graptopetalum Morosky, I believe is what this one is. My Zaragoza, finally. We have this huge pot of babies. We have a Dominoes and Echeveria setosa, Graptoveria Debbie, Silver Arrows, Morosky babies, a Polydonis, and a mixed group of plants that I'm going to be repotting. And sorry if you guys hear noise in the background, it's just my neighbors playing basketball. Can't really control it. So when you're repotting, you just want to make sure that the soil isn't wet, because if it is, it makes it easier to break the roots and introduce root rot to your plant. So don't repot when the soil is wet, and also don't repot or don't water right after you repot, because that can also cause root rot. So mostly what I'm doing today is just upsizing a lot of these plants. Some of them I'm adding more babies in, some of the babies I'm separating into their own containers or like a flat. First one that I'm going to do is the Graptopetalum Morosky. For the Morosky, these little guys, I'm just going to be taking these babies out and putting them in with a bigger pot that I already have with the Morosky. I'm going to go get a table. I didn't think this through. So we're going to start out with this Graptopetalum Morosky, I think is what it's called. And here are the babies. And this is going to be pretty easy since I don't have top dressing. Again, sorry about that. Since I don't have top dressing on this one, it's going to be a lot easier. So what I like to do, if it's in a plastic pot, I go like this and squeeze around the sides, kind of loosen up the soil. And then it just pops right out like that. There we go. And that's all four. Super easy. Just took a couple of seconds. And while I'm repotting, I saw this leaf, and here's an example of what a leaf looks like from too much heat. This one was actually already pulled off the plant, so that's why none of the other ones look like this. This is because this leaf was already separated. Now I'm just going to fill up the rest of the spaces with these little plants. Look how cute this is! These two leaves are deformed and they look like a little heart. I just dig a little spot in with my finger. Okay, and in this largest spot, I'm going to put the ones that have two babies on it, just so there's enough space for the both of them to grow here. And now I'm just covering the base of the plant. And I'm going to do the same thing with these other two. They are all potted. Now I'm just going to put them right over to the side. Next is one that I'm very excited for. This is the Zaragoza, and this one has top dressing in it, so it's going to be harder to repot than the one I just did. But what I'm going to do is just kind of wiggle the rocks out of there, and the plant won't fall out just because the roots are so secure in there that it's fine. I got most of the rocks out, so you tell it's really wobbly. So what I do for plants when they're in terracotta pots, I usually hold the plant like this, and then I tip it over and dump out the soil basically. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And since I'm outside and just over dirt and rocks, I'm just going to dump it onto the ground. Sometimes they're a little bit harder to get out. See, this one's kind of stuck in there. So what I do is I poke my finger. Oh, this one's stuck in there. I've never had this personally happen before. So I'm using my resources that I find around me, and I'm going to use this stick and try to loosen up the soil that's on the sides of the pot. There we go. It's not like completely root bound. You know, there's not roots growing all around the sides, but the roots did reach the bottom, so perfect time to repot. For this one, I'm going to be using a 6-inch terracotta pot. I'm going to take the sticker off the bottom so there's a drainage hole. This I also just got from Lowe's, like I did with my soil. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use as a scoop. And I just dump in so I get the right amount in there. And I'm not filling it up all the way, just filling it up enough so that when I set it in there, that the soil level will be about an inch into the pot. Maybe a little bit less, just for watering. I'm just taking out these babies, so this one's stuck in there. I'm taking those ones out so it's easier to put the soil in. I'm pressing the soil down with my fingers, not too hard. Don't want to squish the roots too tightly. And trying to shake the dirt out of those leaves. Okay, so now there is enough soil in there. Just pressing it down a little bit more. And I'm going to repot these babies back in. That is after I've repotted it. I also have those cuttings of the Zaragoza, if you remember from the previous video on how to propagate succulents, and I might be putting those ones actually in a separate pot because that one's already pretty full, so we'll see. But I won't be doing that today because they still need to dry out some more. Now I'm going to be repotting this Graptivaria Debbie. This is one of my favorites, so I feel like it deserves a terracotta pot. That's kind of how I chose which ones I'm repotting today. I chose based on like which ones were my favorite and which ones are still in plastic pots and the ones that I want to be in terracotta. So now with a 4-inch pot, I'm going to be, again, taking off the bottom sticker. Before I put any soil in here, I'm going to check to see how big this root ball is. Right now, I'm just breaking up the root ball just to see how much roots there really is and how much of it is just soil. This root size is actually perfect for this container. So now I'm just going to fill it up with my cup. When I'm putting a succulent in and making sure the soil is at the right level, I kind of just hold it up, especially if it has like a root ball that's loose like this after loosening it. And I just hold it up in place, and with my other hand, I dump in the soil just to make sure that it's going to be sitting at the right level. I like to make sure my plants are centered too, so after I put some soil on one side, I make sure to scoot it over so it's not off-center, and I put some more in on the other side. And there is the Graptivaria Debbie repotted. By now I'm pretty sure you guys know how to repot succulents, but I am going to be going through the rest of the ones I want to repot just to, you know, do it for fun. So let's continue. The next one we have is an Echeveria setosa. This one has really fuzzy little tips on the leaves, and also the flower is fuzzy, which I think is so cute. When you're repotting, it's also a good time to take off old leaves. So for this setosa that I bought from actually a Safeway, I'm taking the time just to pull off old leaves that are kind of, you know, floppy looking like these ones, just so it can have a fresh start and not put energy into old leaves that, you know, aren't as attractive. Now the Echeveria setosa is done. Next, I'm going to be repotting this Echeveria Polydonis that spilled, and I realized it needs a bigger pot, so I'm going to be repotting this one today. Echeveria Polydonis is all done. Again, I'm making sure to leave a lip on the pot just for watering. It makes it a lot easier to water. The next thing I want to repot is a couple of these miscellaneous ones. This was a recovering pot that I had, and you know, it's a lot of empty space. They really just need a pot of their own. So I'm going to put probably these two in plastic pots because they're so little, but I'll be putting this one in its own 4-inch terracotta pot. Okay, so now all three are separated. I didn't have any smaller pots, so I put them in, what is this, 3 inches? I believe these are 3-inch pots, but this one, I believe, is an Echeveria lucida. This one is an Echeveria subsessilis, and I should probably, for both of these, they're a bit leggy. I can't really tell with this one, but you could definitely tell with this one. This one looks like a tree. They're leggy, and I should probably behead them. But I want to make sure they're perfectly healthy before I behead them so they have more of a chance of surviving. Here's this one. I have no idea what this one is, but I love this one so much. And I'm definitely going to be putting some top dressing in this one so it doesn't look so lonely in this big old pot. But, you know, if anyone of you know the name of this plant, feel free to let me know, because I really want to know. Now that my allergies have made me look like I'm crying. So these two I've been postponing just because I know that cacti are harder to pot. You have to use gloves. Sorry, I'm moving the table. You have to use gloves for ones that are pokey, especially one like this. This one will stab you. So what I do is I use these thick rubber gloves thick rubber gloves that I'll be grabbing in just a minute. And I do have one more thing to pot after these two, but I just want to, I want to wait last for that one. So I'll be grabbing some gloves. Okay, so now I've got my rubber glove, and this is really good for keeping the spines out. Like some normal gardening gloves probably won't even protect you, but this one, since it has like a rubbery coating, it'll protect me from the spines. So the first one I want to do, I guess it's a silver rose. Doesn't really matter which, actually. So I'll do the silver arrows first. Since potting a cactus is different than a succulent, especially one like this, I will show you just in like fast motion how I unpot these ones. I definitely hold them very gently, and I hold them upside down, and I squeeze around the sides so that way I'm not applying pressure and making the spines go through the gloves. I'm also not breaking the spines or the cactus either. And to fill the pot up with soil, I'm just holding with this hand, and with my soil cup, I'm just going around the roots like so. I'm going to be repotting this Dominoes, which doesn't look very pointy. There are little tiny points that come out of here, so I'm going to be using the gloves still, just in case I don't, poke myself at all. Finished repotting this one, and I'm actually pretty sad because this one isn't bloom. That's what these little gray-black things are right here. And I broke off one of the blooms, and this one is fairly new to me. I've only had it for like 2 months, so I'm really sad because I haven't seen this one bloom before, and now that's one pretty bloom that's gone. But there is more that are growing in, so maybe it'll be replaced, hopefully. But this one is done. So I've moved you closer just so this ray isn't as bothersome as it was being. So this next one, unfortunately, in a sense, is getting downgraded to plastic, but it is being upgraded in space. So this is the one that I showed you in my propagation video. These are all propagated by leaves, and I put them in here when they're really small, and now they've completely filled up the pot, or almost completely. So I'm going to be separating these ones into a flat like this. I finished separating them out, and a lot of these I've noticed are connected to each other, but there are, let's see,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
But that isn't counting ones like these that are connected together at the base. So there are more than 11. There's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Counting the ones that are connected, there's 20 like individual, rosettes, but there's only 11 that like 11 like this, like a clusters basically. Now I'm going to be potting those up into the flat. About after 10-15 minutes, I finally finished repotting them all. I noticed that a lot of the leaves were shaky, so I got a ton of leaves. This isn't even all of them. I got a ton of leaves from them, which I'm going to be setting in like the pot with them, which is another way that you can propagate your leaves, is just to leave them in the pot of the plants they fell with. I think one of the reasons why the leaves in the plant was so kind of wobbly and like really easy to break and fragile was because they haven't been getting enough light, is what I'm suspecting, and also being so close together with so many other plants probably isn't as good for them as it could be either. So I'm going to be putting them in a sunnier spot. Here are the babies. You see there's still leaves in here. I wasn't even able to pick out all of them just because there's so many loose ones. So we moved to a new angle just because that light that was just shining through kept getting really annoying. So that is how I repot succulents, and also the other succulents that I just wanted to show you, just to repot for fun. Just to recap, don't repot when the soil is wet, and don't water after repotting. Be careful with the roots. You don't want to break them because it can lead to rot. Same with the watering, that will also lead to rot. Make sure you try to remove as much dead leaves or any old looking leaves when you're repotting, just because it's a lot easier to pull off all the bad stuff. I believe that's all for repotting. There's not many rules to it. It's pretty simple. As long as you're careful and don't water, you should be fine. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel to see more. That's it. Bye guys.